All right, this is Sandy,
And this is Reza.
and this is welcome back to the fifth episode of the Stone Cold Sober podcast.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah, I think with every with every sort of episode that we do, uh, hopefully we're finding our voice a little bit more
Yeah.
readily.
Yeah, becoming a little more comfortable speaking into a microphone, and I don't know, feels pretty natural, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think we're getting the hang of it.
right. Hopefully we don't have any technical difficulties with these, though.
Yeah, right. Anyways, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I went to Boston with my mom to visit my dad. So my dad works up in Boston, so usually every month, my mom and dad will try to see each other, 2, 3, 4 times a month. Either with my mom going up to Boston or my dad coming down here to Pennsylvania. So this weekend I went up. It's been, my dad's been living there for I don't know how long. And so I finally made the trip up to see him now. He's got a new house there. And it was nice. He had been going out with some of his friends from work. They had, really tried to get him to go up to, I guess, Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire to see the changing of the leaves. Because apparently this is pretty big. I didn't know this. A lot of people from around the country will travel up north to the northeast to see the leaves and their change colors.
Oh yeah.
And it was actually really beautiful. On Saturday, unfortunately, it rained a little bit, but we pretty much spent the whole day in the car just driving around. First, I got to see my dad's office, and then we ran a few errands. Bought some stuff for my mom and for my dad, and it seems like up there they really appreciate the fall and autumn more than maybe they do down here. And maybe it's that's just the way I perceive it. I'm kind of driving around seeing looking out the window, watching what everybody's doing. But they also seem like very close-knit towns. There, all these signs you see where these what year certain towns were established. So you see things for like 1654 or whatever.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
They've
It was
been
just nice
around.
to see my dad and hang out with them for the weekend.
Yeah, no, it's always nice. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's not easy, sort of having him away every month for as much as he is.
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess I'm still lucky in that I'm 25 years old. I'm still able to see my parents all the time. Thanks to me going to grad school so close to home.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And what about you? What'd you do this weekend?
So, you'll laugh, but I've been sort of trying to find the perfect winter coat.
Yeah.
It's I've been wearing the same like black pea coat for a number of years now, and I just felt like I've worn it into the ground. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still in good condition, but I just wanted to find something new,
Right.
and so I've been searching sort of like all the fashion sites for a while now, and I had a couple of picked out, but then there was this like model on Instagram that I follow.
Yeah.
He wears sort of like the style that I like. That I guess I'm trying to emulate. And he saw one. Wait, he was wearing one. I was like, this is it. Like everything else has got to go. And he says, oh, definitely go and check it out on the website. And so I go to the U.S. website. It's
Okay.
Ted Baker. And they're like, oh my gosh, 25% off store wide. And I was like, yes, gonna buy it today.
Yeah.
But it wasn't there, and I was like, oh, let's try the UK site. And it was in the UK site, but no 25% off, and B, I had to pay like the shipping and the VAT tax on it.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I don't really want to do that. So on Saturday, I went into Soho and I went to the Ted Baker store, and I was like, hey, do you have this? And they go, yeah, of course we do.
Nice.
What? They're like, well, yeah, like
Of course we do.
they're like, well, everything on the line this season we have here. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's it. I was like, good to know, Not that I'm
Yeah.
shopping there all the time, but it's just good to know that they have it.
Right.
I was wearing like a boxier suit because the suit I was wearing, I bought in like 2010.
Okay.
So I was a little bit bigger then,
Yeah.
and I bought 3 suits then, and they just like no longer fit me. So I wore that for the fitting, and like the suit felt, I think the top coat felt great. And then today I got a new suit because my friend Ratika, right?
Yeah.
She invited me to this engagement party that she's having.
Okay.
on Saturday, and I was like, well, this is a great time as any to sort of get a new suit. So today I went into this place in Soho, like got a new suit done, like fitted, and I should pick it up on Wednesday
Nice.
for a like just get a second fitting to make sure it's good, and then
Yeah.
I will come home and put the suit on and the top coat on, and just see if the top coat still fits, and if not, then I'll just go and get it. I'll just exchange it for a smaller size.
Okay. Awesome. And so wait, so that engagement party's this coming Saturday?
It's in Philly, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I still
Okay.
have to buy the bus ticket, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if you want to, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do.
I probably won't be able to do anything too crazy Saturday. I know Elena's coming over, and we are going to Pittsburgh on Sunday into Monday, and then
Right.
and then we gotta jet to literally, I guess, on Tuesday to Brazil.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we still have to figure stuff out for that.
We do, and I'm hoping this week to really get on the grind with that, because I was looking up a few different things. I know we said we might talk about it on the podcast this week, and I don't think we're really prepared to do that right now.
Yeah.
But like some of the things I was looking at, maybe it'd be cool to check out some museums, or maybe even like a university, just to see. I think a museum would be the better choice. Get an actual tour.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can find something with English. I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem either. So those are some of the kinds of things that I want to do. Obviously, I want to hike up to see Christ the Redeemer, which I also looked up the prices of that, and it seems pretty manageable.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get excited for the trip. I was feeling a little anxious just because of work, trying
Yeah.
to finish things up for work, and I guess it's always weird with when it's come to my work with grad school. I always feel like I'm never done or completed with. I'm never finished with anything, and sometimes it's I know my advisor is all about me. He's all about vacations, and he's completely for me going away and all. But at the same time, I guess it's just the pressure I put on myself to keep working and never take too much time off. I've never been a big vacation taker in my life.
Yeah. I think that's something that we all have to change.
Yeah, right.
Not so much for like. I mean, it's equally important for us to enjoy it, but I think it's also important just to take the time off and decompress.
Yeah,
Because when you run yourself into the ground, you're just gonna not do good work.
right. Yeah, no, you've been working really hard this week too.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
week, last week, the
Yeah.
previous week, it's been definitely really it's been pretty intense, but it's exciting. It's exciting work. So I'm not complaining one bit. It's just
Yeah.
really nice to work on like an exciting project.
Yeah, yeah. Think it's gonna finally be turning down a little bit, or you're just gonna hope to push out for one more week before Brazil.
We'll see. I think we'll find out when everyone listens to this on Monday morning.
Okay.
How my week is going to trend.
Yeah.
But it'll be good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. So I was like reading this thing while I was working this past week on just like all the sort of normal websites that we read,
Yeah.
and came across this like video game trailer that sort of took me back.
Yeah.
It's for this game Hatred. It's by a Polish developer.
Are they a big developer? Do you know?
I don't think
Do you
they
know what
are.
they've worked on before?
I don't think they worked on anything before. That's probably a lie. I'm sure they worked on something.
Okay.
But it's for a game called Hatred,
Yeah.
and the sort of launch trailer, which couldn't have been timed any worse, because they came out the same day that like a school had like threats online for a shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that doesn't seem like the best way to release sort of a game like this.
Yeah.
And everyone's sort of touting it as like a really disturbing game
Yeah.
because of the type of violence that it shows. Now, video games have always been sort of super violent, right?
Yeah. Which is kind of an interesting topic in itself.
Right, where people are saying that why is this game sort of any different? And I guess
Right.
to preface it, let's see, this game, the trailer cuts to like a guy wearing a leather trench coat, which sort of has an iconic history now, a very
Yeah.
negative history in our
Right.
country.
Back to Columbine.
Columbine, everything else. But it's basically it depicts sort of the slaughter of horrified people who scream and plead for their lives.
Yeah.
And that's sort of something different than what we've been used to before. Because in games that you and I play,
Right.
games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, these like military shooters, they're pretty realistic.
Yeah, they are.
You know, they sort of differentiate this gunshot sounds between shooting someone in the body and shooting someone in the head. You know, we've been playing these games for years,
Hmm.
and I like to think that we're pretty well adjusted to society.
Yeah.
But I think those games don't sort of glorify the fear that hatred did in the trailer.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, actually, that's a really good point. I think that you bring up. They don't. It's I think it's the fear that really kind of makes you cringe a bit when you watch this video, because you and I have both played games like Grand Theft Auto, where I guess people will say the game just kind of glorifies and I guess to me the killing in that game is very easy, and
Oh yeah,
I don't know. I don't really recall many instances where people are kind of pleading with you and you decide, to kill them or not kill them.
yeah,
But I think what's interesting about hatred is that they seem to put that emotion, that humanity behind these characters in the game. And when I watched the trailer, I just said I'm not playing this game. I have no intention of purchasing this game or playing this game even if it's for free. It just doesn't seem like something that's going to sit well with me. I hope that, like, I really wonder, is it supposed to be a work of parody? What, it seems pretty serious, right?
yeah.
Now, they don't have much more information to say, what your goal is aside from just taking out as many people as you can before you get killed.
That seems to be sort of the goal of the player in this game.
Right.
To sort of, I mean, especially in the trailer, it just talks about how many people I'm going to try and kill as quickly as possible.
Right.
Um, it seems like this trailer has really touched and highlighted a lot of common tropes in our society. The angry teenager, sort of the angry teenager who feels like they're misunderstood.
Right.
Some kid who writes in like these really grandiose terms, right? Sort of like bringing the world to its knees and maggots all around me.
Yeah.
It's sort of self-aggrandizing, making yourself seem like you're some kind of either prophet or above everyone else, and to sort of feel the need that you are here to cleanse society. Violence really of any form, murder of any form, isn't right.
Yeah. I mean, we even talked about that last week too.
Right.
I guess I'm really wondering, why is it okay that we play games like Call of Duty and these military shooters where you're killing these, the in quote bad guy on the other side. We typically kind of overemphasize the bad of these in these games, so it's a very clear cut. Oh yeah, that's definitely a bad guy on the other side. But in real life, it's maybe not so clear cut. People are typically fighting. I mean, I don't want to say typically. Maybe in a lot of cases, though, people sign up to join the military because of their pride for their nation. They want to defend their land, they want to defend their people. And so whether you do that in the United States or you do that in Russia, it's can you really say there's no significant difference? There's no real difference, aside from the fact that one country has pushed this ideals on you, and then the other country's put a separate ideal.
Yeah.
And you sign up for the army and you end up going out and killing each other. And it's not like the person that you're killing is really a bad guy.
Right.
He just happens to have been born in the country that your country deemed the bad guy.
I think with games like Call of Duty,
Yeah.
we're focused on sort of military personnel.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of distances our emotional sort of connection.
Right. There's never that emotion, that humanity on the other side, that person that you're shooting. They're always shooting back.
They're always shooting back. and it becomes more of a sport in Call of Duty because we see it as, well, each kill is worth X amount of points.
Right.
So it's like our team versus your team, and we're down X many points, which really translates to X many kills. And when we kill somebody, it's not so much the you're never glorifying the act. I think those games are different because it's so quick.
Yeah.
Where you kill one person, you're like, all right, now we're back in this game, and you come back really quickly. And it's sort of the actual killing is so instantaneous that it's never really made to be the most important part.
Now,
Like you'll get kill streaks where you kill multiple people in a row without dying,
yeah.
but you're seeing point scores show up.
Right, right. Now, do you think that's a problem though? Like, do you think for people that are unstable, and we hear this a lot. I've certainly seen people, cite studies, and I've never actually seen the studies myself, so I can't really say with certainty. But I've seen people say that there's been no significant link found between violence in video games and actual violence in real life. So, school shootings and stuff. People always look for something to blame. They'll either blame the typical, I guess, culprits are video games, music, the music that you listen to,
Yeah.
movies and TV shows.
I, I, and I think that I don't know if that is an issue. I think you're I guess you're expected, and I don't know if this is a big expectation to have,
Yeah,
but you're expected to understand that this is a video game, that it's fake,
right.
that it's, if anything, just telling a story, and that within, like you're sort of you all fall under the spell of the story,
Right, right.
even if it is like a multiplayer game. Like you're expected to, for the next 5 to 10 minutes, be like in this world where the rules are sort of set out in front of you,
Yeah,
and but within that sort of narrative, again, it doesn't highlight sort of the suffering that happens, and maybe that's because it's all like rated T for teen,
yeah,
so there's not a lot of gore or anything like that.
yeah. So that's actually what I was going to bring up next. I think with a lot of these games, there needs to be a strong emphasis on the ratings that these games get and who has access to these games, because a lot of the games that we've mentioned thus far are rated M for mature, so that meaning you have to be 17 or older to play, or you have to have parental consent. And I
Right.
think that's where you come into a lot of problems. You and I played how many games of Call of Duty where there are kids on the other side of the microphone that sound like they're no older than 12, 13 years old.
Right. Who are just, and what's interesting is those kids are always the one that are talking the most.
Right.
Who are just, and by talking, we don't just mean sort of conversing in a normal manner. We're talking about hyper aggressive.
Yeah, the trash talking, the language that they use.
It's, yeah.
And it's not even like this is really language that they're repeating from the game itself. I think you always see whenever you start these online games, the online interactions they're not rated by the ESRB, so it doesn't really matter what the rating of the game is. If you're able to interact with these other strangers, typically you're going to be exposed to things that are probably worse than what the game shows you or tells you. I think I guess maybe the first game that this really became a big problem with, at least on the consoles, was Halo. Halo 2, I guess, would be the first one, the first real one.
Mhm.
And I know plenty of my friends that played Halo. I guess before they were 17 at the time, maybe 15, 16 years old, and I want to say that, I guess this might be going off topic a little bit. I probably won't stay here too long, but a lot of the problems that people discuss with Destiny, the newest Bungie title, they really make it difficult for you to interact with other strangers, with other people that are playing that game. And I bet it's partially because of their experience with, I don't want to blame it on the younger players, but so on a lot of the things that people would say to each other when they played Halo online.
Right. I think that's sort of a positive thing almost, because when you go online, you're most often just looking to have some fun,
Right.
compress. The idea isn't for you to have to be made privy to some little kid's hate speech
Right.
where they don't really understand what they're actually saying. None of this can be repeated in real life, and that's sort of my marker for what is appropriate. Would you
Yeah.
be willing to say this publicly?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because these little kids will it's either just it's all hypersexual if they find out it's a female,
Right.
where there's that type of bullying. It's all anti-gay, anti any race but theirs.
Hmm.
And it's just why do you think this is okay? What sort of situation have you sort of fueled yourself into this state where you think it's okay to say this to another human being?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to say this to their face if they met you in person? If
I
they're
would like to say no.
I would hopefully you would like to say no.
Right.
And sort of where are the parents where that are allowing this type of language to just go?
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that they're like next to their child when this goes down, but it's pretty scary to see sort of, and I guess this is sort of the a byproduct of the internet age,
Yeah.
where you can just say whatever you want, and all you have to do is hide behind a screen name because no one's ever gonna know who you are.
Yeah. I think it's certainly a big problem. Seems like I really wish I wish that wasn't the case, but it seems like a pretty big problem, not just within video games, but on the internet as a whole. With people on 4chan, people on Reddit, they just say very hateful things to each other because
Yeah.
there are no consequences, and I wonder why people feel the need or where's the satisfaction in being so hurtful to somebody else on the other side of the screen.
Right.
You have no idea how they're actually take that criticism, that those words that you say to them. I was certainly sensitive to it the first time people, the first time people were critical of things that I said online. And it's not that I have a problem with criticism, it's the way that they say way that they say what they say.
Everyone's hyper aggressive, but then
Yeah.
they can't. It's those same people that if you say anything negative towards them, they can't handle it.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's been coddled to the point where they don't understand sort of a positive way to communicate criticism.
Right. And I just think that I don't even know what I think or why people say the things that they say online, in video games, why they're so whatever you want to call it, mean to each other. And there's not even like really a catalyst for something like that. You and I have been in countless lobbies, the pregame lobby where you wait 60 seconds or whatever, and you're able to talk with each other, where nobody will say anything, and then somebody will just call another player out and just start just being hyper aggressive to them. They didn't do anything. These people have never interacted before, and I just wonder why that is, or is there satisfaction that they get from it?
I think
Do
it's more, and this is only one view.
Right.
I think these people feel good personally when they put other people down,
Yeah.
just so they can comparatively, increase their level.
Okay.
And I think that's a really immature way to deal with things, because you shouldn't have to feel like you put people down to make yourself look good.
Yeah.
That's sort of not the way that a mature person handles things.
Right. I mean, I guess we can say that's typically what we see when it comes to bullying
Oh
in real
yeah,
life, right? And so I wonder if you can do those same type of studies and apply that to the way that people communicate online with one another.
right.
Is it the same thing?
Like Key and Peele has that very powerful bullying sketch
Yeah.
where the one kid is bullying him and saying really hurtful things,
Yeah.
but then in the next sort of also voicing the motivation behind it, and how he's looking for acceptance, he's looking for approval from his parents
Right.
who beat him. And it's very interesting because I think more and more kids need to understand why kids bully.
Yeah.
Kids, I mean, bullying is such a crazy epidemic in this country that we need to fix. That and and gaming doesn't create a solid environment for that to sort of take hold. Like like we run into this situation all the time when we play. Some kid will send me a message because either
Oh yeah.
I most of the time I did well. In the games that we play, normally you and I do pretty well when we play against other kids.
Yeah.
Some kid will say, I'm either camping, which means I was just sitting in a corner waiting for him to come around, or I did something that made him very angry. Angry enough to send me a written message. Usually with some derogatory term, calling me out. And then the way I do it, I'll always go, you know what, you're right. I'm not a good player. Just to sort of play into it a little bit.
Right.
And then immediately he'll send me this other user will send me a friend request.
Yeah.
And it always blows my mind where some kid will come out hyper aggressive, be extremely disrespectful to me, and then when I show the smallest either ounce of empathy or compassion, he wants to be a quote unquote online friend that we can continue to play games with.
Yeah.
Now, why would I feel the need to foster something like that within my group of friends?
Yeah. You have no need.
Absolutely no need. And it's just time and time again. And every time this happens, you and I know that because I always tell you this is happening.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's absolutely illogical for the second step to follow that first step.
And it's weird that it's happened so many times. This is not just like an isolated incident. This has happened numerous times. They'll almost immediately apologize for what they said, or say, oh, it wasn't so bad after all, or something like that, and then you'll say whatever, and then all of a sudden here comes a friend request.
Right, and then I just always disregard it because there's no room. It sounds stupid, but there's no room in my life for something like that.
I like that. I like the method, though. It's a very quick way to kind of diffuse the entire situation. I mean, I guess the other simple method is just not to reply at all, but why not? Yeah. Why not kind of? I wonder if by you doing that, you kind of make them second guess the next time they think about doing that, sending somebody a message for the way they play, and typically most of the time it's just people trying to justify the way they played or the way they performed.
Yeah, and it's just. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely right, and I think with games like Hatred to come out, it just sort of fuels the fire for some of these kids, and it's just not something that's a healthy release because this game is hyper real, and the graphics are very realistic, and the types of violent acts that you're taking out on innocent civilians, which I think is another big aspect of the game that we'll touch upon. It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's a commentary on sort of the hypocritical nature that we all have where this type of violence, this type of murder will make us cringe, but the types of murder that we play online won't. For example, you and like the constant, not the constant, but one of the more famous sort of types of murder in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Is to pick up a prostitute and then kill her.
Right.
Like that's sort of like almost a meme now within Grand Theft Auto. Now, it's definitely deplorable, but maybe, and this I could be totally off base here, so definitely keep me honest. But sort of the Grand Theft Auto world and the narrative and the type of language and tone that it employs is sarcastic.
Yeah.
To sort of make it more of a sartorial take on the type of society that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I like to look at it. I certainly might not be thinking that while I'm playing, but I don't think I take that game seriously enough, or many other games seriously enough to really even consider. It sounds, I guess, to people that are offended by video games and their violence, it sounds kind of terrible. But I just don't really, I don't even think of it as kind of killing. I don't know. It does sound a bit strange, I guess. One thing I think you brought up before, in Call of Duty, there's that no Russian level for Modern Warfare 2.
Yes.
And that one was actually really interesting, and the outrage that that brought about. There, before you even start the game, it informs you that there's a level that is very controversial, and if you're not, like, you can opt out. There's no punishment for not playing the level,
Right.
and there's no reward for playing the level either.
Right.
And essentially, what happens is you start the level. You're a special forces agent, and you're undercover, and you're trying to bring down this terrorist organization led by this one man.
Yeah.
And essentially what's happening is you start off on this level, and you guys have light machine guns, and you walk into an airport, and there you go to the security, and there are just tons of innocent people standing by, and they just start unloading on these people, and you could participate too. And essentially the whole point of the level is just kill everybody.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the level, maybe I shouldn't give this spoiler if anyone actually wants to play this game.
The game is like 10 years old. You can totally give away the
All
level.
right, fine. We give away the level. You get killed. So the player that you're playing gets killed, even though you're undercover and you're trying to stop this organization. The reason why, I guess I don't really have a good reason for why you participate in these. I mean, you could theoretically kill the people that you're with, and the game would be over, right? But you are framed as an American for performing this act in a Russian airport. And I wonder, like, for the sake of the story, it makes sense. You know, this organization is trying to pit the United States and Russia at war, and this is enough to start that war between the two countries. You're found, the player that you play is found to be an active military member, and they take that as the Russian government takes that as an act of war, and they invade the United States after that point.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's too
about that level
yeah.
is when I played that level, I went through the entire thing and I didn't fire a single shot.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. You can do that. You can just kind of walk around. There's no penalty for that either.
Yeah. So you can become a really passive player in that level.
Right. Which is not the case in most others.
Which is not the case. And especially in this situation, because you are highlighting and celebrating that fear of killing innocent people.
Yeah.
And so with Call of Duty, they use it as a narrative tool
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
to bring the story forward. And they made you an accomplice into that, where normally it's sort of built into a cutscene where you have to watch a movie.
Yeah.
And then you have no real effect on that narrative. I think with hatred, it's more of a mindless killing, where the only goal is to kill as many people. You have no reason. There's no reason why you're doing that. But
as far as we know, right? But
as far as we know,
from that trailer, that's exactly what it seems like.
And you're killing innocent men and women who are pleading for their lives, who have done nothing wrong, but just been in that location.
Yeah.
I'm afraid on a couple of fronts about this game. One, that it'll find its way into some kid who's not emotionally mature enough to handle the subject matter, play the game, and feel like they're they're learning something from this game.
Yeah.
I understand that the game is sort of trying to it's social commentary on the types of violence that we deem acceptable and not. Because if you think about it, with the FCC, you're able to kill so many people on basic cable.
Yeah, so that's a good point right there.
You're able to show just mass violence. But if you show one naked part of a woman or man that we deem unacceptable, your whole show gets canceled.
Exactly.
Which seems really interesting because in Europe, it's flipped.
Yeah.
Where they're a little bit more open towards the human anatomy. Now, I'm not saying full frontal nudity is allowed at like a certain time slots.
Yeah.
But they're much more sensitive to violence, which I always thought was interesting. It's sort of the famous George Carlin skit. There's 7 words you can't say on TV, but I can show you getting killed.
Yeah. It's it's very interesting. I wonder how that's kind of come about over time. But it seems like, yeah, especially in America. I mean, that's all I can really speak from with experience. I live here. We are in this country. We're very sensitive to sex. We don't want to expose the children to it at all, and almost pretend like it doesn't exist.
Right.
And then when it comes to violence, people seem completely fine showing violence, showing people get killed, and it's not even just like implied. They will go to extremes with with makeup and CGI to make it look as real as possible. I mean, both you and I, like at 9 o'clock tonight, are very much looking forward to The Walking Dead, right?
Right.
And how many people watch that show? I wonder. This may be a little bit different. We're killing zombies here, and but in a sense, it still expresses the violence that we're completely fine with showing on TV, and anybody can really watch this.
I mean, just last week, the Walking Dead season 5 premiere had the most views, A, in its show history,
Yeah.
and B, became the most watched non-sports show on cable network history. Now, what's interesting is, in the first 10 minutes of last week's episode, they showed things that I didn't think you could show at any time a day. You're showing these real humans, not zombies. I think you can get away with zombies being non-human.
Yeah.
So the type of gore that you can show is a little bit more intense. But they showed real humans still alive, bound and gagged, brought to an actual trough. Was sort of like bent over the trough, and what these guys would do is they would smack you in the back of the head with a baseball bat and then slice your neck open.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is a 9 o'clock show, and I understand that's sort of like it's when you start to trend towards more adults, time slot. But that's an incredibly violent thing to show on TV.
Yeah, it's very graphic.
Extremely graphic, and there are kids watching this.
Yeah.
How does, like, if you watch this show as a family, how are you supposed to understand what your kid is absorbing in that moment?
Yeah.
Because it's incredibly shocking. Because they don't do it once; they do it 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's very blasé when they do it in the show, and there's a reason why it's blasé based on the sort of organizations doing it to the main protagonist. And I don't think that was. All right, so I can think that might have been the worst part of that episode. But what was also worse was the ending of that episode, where they sort of showed like the flashback as to why this group became as aggressive as it did.
You said that was the part that got you really bad, right?
Right. Now, what got me wasn't even, that first part was more of a shock, and I didn't understand what I was seeing. But the second part of that episode at the end, when they're showing the flashback of the current organization when they were under a different organization's sort of rule, they show this one guy open a train car, and there's people like in sort of like being held hostage.
Yeah.
And this guy picks a girl at random, and she yells, "Please, no, not again." And you're like, and the only reason why it's so graphic, even though they don't show anything, is because earlier in the episode they raped us for weeks.
Yeah.
And then when they show this, like, I guess a college-age girl being dragged out by men, not ideally, but, well, ideally is a terrible word there. That's not what I meant. What I meant was sort of like with the notion that she's going to be gang raped by these guys for weeks is incredibly graphic.
Yeah. Now, actually, what's interesting, I don't know if you noticed this, and this is kind of an aside from the violence. If the man who pulls that girl out of the train car, mm-hmm. he's actually the one that Rick and his crew rescue when they're running away.
Now, that's an interesting thing that you bring up, because
right.
is that confirmed?
That was what they said during Talking Dead. So I assume, I think one of the producers said it, and that was actually a really interesting episode overall in terms of like violence. Because the crew, the people that are running things what we were watching this past week, they were so nonchalant. They were completely fine with, the kill, like you said, when they were in front of the troughs and they were getting hit in the head with a baseball bat. The people that were doing this were doing it like this is just their 9 to 5. They do this every single day, no problems. They have no remorse, and it's very eerie. And I think that's what you're supposed to pick up from this episode, right?
Absolutely.
You're supposed to pick up on the fact that these guys are killing so casually and, just talking about whatever they're doing this weekend. The guy comes in, what was his name? Gareth. He comes in and starts taking inventory on like, oh, how many shots did you take? And he's like, I don't remember. And the other one's like, oh, like 52. And, meanwhile, they're still, hitting these people in the back of the head and killing them. There's no remorse. It's just work. It's just, another thing. I was very impressed with that episode overall, actually. I did like it. It was definitely very violent too.
It was very violent, but it definitely progressed the narrative forward.
Right.
But it was just still incredibly just unsettling to have to watch all that.
Yeah. What I would hope would be that parents wouldn't watch this type of show with their kids. Like it's not only is it a TV show that's rated MA, but every single time it comes back from commercials, they always warn the viewer that this show is very graphic and it's intended only for mature audiences.
Yeah.
And I think when you see messages like that, I really do think it's time, time to put the kids to bed or time to move the kids to another room.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Don't let the kids watch that type of show, as well as many of the other types of show that air on like AMC or FX at this time of night. I know that their main demographic, they're airing to adults.
Right. Like the most standard sort of MA sort of qualifiers, LSV, right? Language, sexual content, and violence.
Right.
And it's just something that sort of, it begs the question, right? Jim Jeffries does it in his podcast, not his podcast, in his stand-up. Do we have to play to the lowest common denominator in society?
Yeah.
It's like, he goes, and it's a funny bit, but he goes, he takes drugs like a champion, right?
Yeah.
But he can't take drugs anymore because Cindy took drugs and like killed her kids.
Right.
And so now we can't take these drugs anymore, and she's ruined it for everybody. Is that something that we need to consider for video game violence? Where that a lot of parents, can't say most, let's not say most, a lot of parents out there don't understand the product that they're buying when their kid drags them to the local GameStop.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it's like, all right, let's just say that you have a son, and the son's bringing you to GameStop. You have no idea what sort of this video game world is.
Right.
And I actually think, all right, let me finish. The kid says, I wanted you to buy me Call of Duty because I can't buy it because I'm 13 years old.
They definitely wouldn't say it to you like that, right?
Well, no, they wouldn't say it to you like that. But I'm saying, like, to set up this,
okay.
To set it up.
Okay.
They can't sell it to you because you're 13 years old.
Right, right.
Do you think it's up to the store clerk to go, hey, this game is rated MA for these following reasons? Do you think it's on the store clerk to inform the parent at the potential cost of making a sale?
I don't think. Oh wow. Okay. So if the kid is there with his parents, you never really know if the parent is buying it for the kid or not, right? So like I think there's that social awkwardness that people probably try to avoid, because I'd imagine that certain clerks, if they're selling a game to an adult and they have like a 10-year-old by their side and they're buying Call of Duty, it's hard to say if the parent is buying it for themselves or for that kid. Now, I think it would be nice, I think it would be the best thing to do would be to give that type of warning, because you never really know, right?
Right.
It's the same thing that you do when you card people for cigarettes and alcohol. You'll have somebody in there who's like 40, 50 years old, very clearly over 21, and they'll still get carded.
Right.
And
because that's the law.
Right. And so, if say GameStop made it their policy to do that, I don't think people would feel weird, or I don't think people would be upset if they gave that warning. And what if they just gave the warning every single time, no matter what? They told you that this game is rated MA for this reason. Are you sure you want to buy it? Now, I guess that GameStop probably wouldn't want that to happen, because
Right.
that could reduce
It's all at the
potential
cost of
sales.
sales.
Right. But I think that's a good point. Like, if the parent is buying the game, and there's a kid there, I would hope that somebody would try to bring that to their attention. Maybe they aren't familiar with video games. Maybe they're not familiar with the rating systems. Obviously you I think you and I kind of think, oh, of course they're going to know, that big M right there. And if you flip it over, it tells you why it's rated M. But you never really know. Now, I know when I was buying games when I was younger, typically I bought games with my own money.
Yeah.
And the stores wouldn't sell me a game that was rated M. I'd be like, 12 years old. They're not going to sell me a game that's rated M. In fact, I had problems once buying a game that was teen when I was like 11 or 12 years old.
Oh, dude,
I had to have my parents buy it for me.
I got carded in college buying video games.
Oh, really? I don't think I've ever been carded.
Every time there was a new Call of Duty and I wanted to go buy it, because I look younger than my age, I got carded. I
Interesting.
need to see some ID. Sure, no worries.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been carded when buying a video game, but I do remember I was at Target when I lived in Indiana, and I tried to buy the game, and they told me that they asked if I was 13. I said no. I guess I could have lied, right?
Right.
And he said, I can't sell it to you, and so I had to ask my parents. And of course, I had to tell my parents why, and I had to explain what the game was.
Yeah.
But I think that's the type of thing that they would want, right?
Right.
That clerk would have wanted that. He's very aware. Or, my parent comes in later on and buys the game for me. Now he knows, or can assume, that I've spoken to my parents about it. He knows why I couldn't get it on my own, and that my parents there, that my parents know why I couldn't get it on my own, and they know why they're there now. And I would hope that people would do that with their kids. Now, we know, you and I both know, that's not the case, though. There are plenty of parents that are buying their kids these games. Have you ever been to the store and, like, around Christmas time, and you're looking for a video game, and you see parents doing Christmas shopping for their kids, and they're buying a bunch of different types of games, and they just don't seem to even notice the ratings. I think it was last Christmas, I was at Target, and I saw some parents that were picking out a bunch of different games. They had picked out some, like, NBA and FIFA, but at the same time they had picked up, like, Battlefield and Call of Duty. And I obviously don't have no idea how old that kid was. That kid could have been 17 for all I know. But I just found it kind of funny how oblivious they were. They didn't know what they were really looking at. They were trying to figure out what system it was, and you just hope that those types of people can make informed decisions for their children, because they don't know. I think when it comes to TV shows, I think they know, and I think when it comes to movies, they know. But I think when it comes to video games and even internet websites, it's very difficult to police, because it's kind of a different culture. It's a different generation. Some people's parents or some people just aren't interested in video games at all.
I think that our sort of, your and I shared passion for video games makes us better informed, so that potentially if our children ever want to play video games, and I take a look at what the box is, like, I will totally buy it if I find it to be the appropriate game for their age.
Yeah.
Now, what might be interesting is if you want to play that video game and it's like if Grand Theft Auto 9 came out, that's actually a long time. Like, if Grand Theft Auto 6 or 7 came out, right?
Okay.
And you wanted to play the game, would you play it with your kid around? Because, you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
Those are just really interesting, where you had to start to be a little bit more nuanced in when you enjoy the game.
Yeah. I like to imagine that my passion for video games, or at least my my ability to play them, I'm pretty confident that that's gonna drop pretty significantly, when I get married, have kids, and all that good stuff. Yeah, I certainly think so, especially with kids.
Yeah.
Even moving in with the girlfriend, it's there's a lot of shared time, and in that passion with my girlfriend, she's not interested in video games, so I'm not going to sit there and try to play video games for every single day.
Well, yeah.
Now you're going to try to prevent us from moving in together, but yeah, I certainly think that's going to have to happen. When you have kids, you don't want to play any of those games when they're around.
Sure. It's just, also know that, so that was the first point. The second point being, that sort of the reason why this hatred game coming in is so bad is news
Yeah.
crews are going to cover this game, and it's just sort of the constant negative press that video games get for being too violent, for militarizing our culture and our kids to become super violent. You know that there's going to be a lot of sound bites on this game,
Yeah.
and they're just going to be making broad, sweeping generalizations about about this hobby that we share, and it's just sort of like the unnecessary attention that we need. We've been doing so well. Not really. That's actually a big lie. With Gamergate going on.
Uh,
But we won't get into that this week. Gamergate, I feel like, deserves its own sort of
Episode
its own
or own
focus.
top. Yeah.
But you just know that they're gonna rail on us, thinking that video games is the one thing that makes our society violent, which I find absolutely so funny to think about.
Yeah.
It's wild. There's violence at every step. There's violence on in the news all the time.
Yeah.
There's violence in movies. There's violence in TV shows. It's on the internet. It's
And
everywhere.
violence in our nature. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't think you're ever going to really break away from the violence. I mean, it's really in our own nature. How violent are we? Like look at tribes that are completely isolated. They only interact with, we'll say these select like 50, 60 other people. And look at the violence that they exhibit when it comes to interacting with other tribes, or maybe even within their tribe. I don't want to. I mean, in some way, it's in our own nature. I don't want to say that it's in our nature to go out and shoot each other, for sport or for fun, or when you get depressed and whatnot. But I'm just saying that in general, we all seem to exhibit some type of I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the point. That's the reason why these violent video games, these violent TV shows are kind of popular anyway, right? We seem to be attracted to that type of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of always been in our human nature.
Yeah.
Like we're always, and I think the commentary is right. We're only like 3 or 4 days when society breaks down for us to just be raving lunatics.
Yeah.
Like it only takes a few days, and then it's all gone.
I mean, that's why I think I really enjoy Walking Dead so much. It's kind of a someone's imagination, their thought on what society really would be like if our entire society fell apart.
Right.
Plus the zombies. But I think the really interesting things are when we see the interaction between our protagonists with other survivors out there.
Oh,
and
sure.
see, how despicable and evil some people are, how nice some people are, and we even see the evolution of the protagonist of the show. I think that was a really interesting point in this last week's Talking Dead, where we saw how Rick had claimed that they needed to go back to Terminus to kill the survivors. He said that they don't deserve to live.
Right.
And the only reason he stopped is because he saw Tyrese with his daughter, with Rick's daughter, who he thought was dead.
Right.
And we see that evolution of our characters. We want to think of these people as good guys, and they've done a lot of questionable things.
Oh, sure.
And we still support them, but that might just be because, we have the camera following them around every single week.
That very well might be it.
Yeah.
It's incredible, sort of the amount of violence that they are willing to show. And it's just, I think that, but even then I think with The Walking Dead, it's always been sort of human nature. It's a commentary on human nature.
Yeah.
Because the zombies are never the greatest threat. It's
Right.
always humans.
Yeah. It started off as the zombies, and typically we see that the zombies are no real big deal.
Right. Because even now, the zombies are just part of the landscape, the back.
Yeah, they figured out how to deal with the zombies. You typically don't die to zombies unless there's some type of extra factor involved there. You die to a zombie because somebody made you die to a zombie. You don't really, or you just become overwhelmed. There are way too many zombies to deal with, but that doesn't happen too often.
Right. It's all. I just think that if we bring it back to hatred, it's it could be irresponsible if this game only gets a mature rating.
That is actually what I was thinking about asking you. Do you think this game deserves an adults only rating?
Well, it's similar to Manhunt, that old Rockstar game, isn't it?
I actually don't know. I never played Manhunt.
Well, Manhunt was sort of like a game where you had to make it through, and everyone's trying to kill you in a really despicable way,
Uh huh.
and you're just trying to make it through alive. But it's all shot through CCTV sort of viewpoints, and it's
Oh.
sort of like killing for sport. It's sort of like Purge, that movie, The Purge.
Uh huh.
But then it speaks to like a higher sort of there's like a higher ideal that they end up exploring at one point or another.
I see.
But it's just I think that this game deserves an adult rating.
Okay. How about Payday? And for those that don't know, Payday is a game where you go in with a group of 4 people, and the goal is to rob different locations, so a bank or jewelry stores, of as much money as possible. Now you can try to do it in stealthy ways, but typically what ends up happening is somebody ends up calling 911, and you try to steal as much money as you can while killing as many police officers as possible without getting caught or killed.
Right. Um. Well, isn't the focus of Payday though just to rob people?
The focus is to rob people. I actually own Payday, and I haven't played too much of it. And I remember like watching it, and even when I was playing it, I was kind of I don't know if that's the reason why I didn't really play too much of it. It is a little weird to be in that situation. I know they're not real people. I know it's not real money or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it does feel a little strange when you play that game. I guess to a lesser degree, how about like Watch Dogs? Because Watch Dogs was the game that's very similar to Grand Theft Auto, but you are able to hack people. And when you approach people, and when you become, when you're walking down the street, little profiles will come up with people's names, their salaries, and I think like where they live or what they do.
Yeah.
I'm not remember. And you can, and when every single time those profiles come up, you can hack that person and rob them, rob their bank accounts.
Yeah.
And I think some people have claimed that those little profiles were enough to bring that humanity to those people, that people might feel guilty. People playing the game may feel guilty about hacking these random people.
That's interesting. I definitely wouldn't put Watch Dogs above Payday in terms of intensity.
Right.
I would think that Payday is more the focus is on the armed robbery aspect, and you're
Yeah.
not glorifying the killing of the police officers. I think
Okay.
Hatred deserves an adult rating because you're glorifying the fear that you're creating in the uh, innocent bystanders that you
Okay.
happen upon. Where you happen upon a bystander, you enter a cinematic view where you're seen shooting a man's head off with a shotgun in really excruciating detail,
Yeah.
or stabbing a woman repeatedly.
Yeah,
Or
that seems extreme.
there was that one clip, right, where the woman was screaming, you put a gun in her mouth and you shoot her, and her head,
Yeah.
the back of her
Their
head
heads
explodes
exploded.
out.
Right.
You're glorifying that suffering, and you're glorifying the fear.
Right.
And you can tell in the voice acting, and you can tell in the visual presentation.
Hmm.
I think it's that subtle nuance where you're glorifying that aspect as opposed to sort of the armed robbery aspect, where you're not, the main objective of Payday is not to kill cops.
Yeah.
It's just to get away with as much loot as possible.
Right.
And that might be some oversimplifying it, but I think that's sort of the main nuance, and that focus should garner it a much harsher rating.
Yeah.
And typically in the video game industry, if your game gets an adult-only rating, you've basically killed any shot at that game making any kind of profit. Because
Yeah.
stores do not carry adult-only games.
Now, the interesting thing about this particular game is that I believe it's a PC only game. And so I don't, unless, maybe Steam doesn't carry, Steam being the digital distributor, the major digital distributor of PC games. I don't know if Steam has any restrictions on selling adult only games, but I wonder if the controversy that this game is garnering will boost its popularity, if it'll boost people's desires to play it just because they're curious.
That is true. I think there's
And
definitely that aspect of it.
yeah, and like if the game isn't even available on Steam, I wonder if they'll just be able to buy it through
I
this
think where there's a
developer's
will,
website.
I think where there's a will, there's going to be a way. If you really want to play this game, you're gonna be able to play this game.
Yeah,
You're gonna
absolutely.
find a way to play this game.
Yeah, I by the way, I agree with your point completely, and I really think the major point is that this game hatred seems to try to put that humanity in these people that you're killing,
Right.
and you're supposed to be able. You're the one who's pulling the trigger, and I just don't think I could do that.
Right.
I know it's fake. I know it's not real, but the fact that they're trying so hard to
make it
that
real.
to make it real, to make that humanity, to make those people seem like they have real emotions and interests, just doesn't appeal to me.
Right. I don't know if Steam carries adult only titles. I don't know how strict Steam is with like their user profiles.
Right.
What games you're allowed to purchase. It might be just one of those things where you just have to click a box to say like, "Hey, I'm old enough to buy this game." But
So
it's very unsettling. I wonder how the because it's gotten a lot of press,
yeah,
and all press is good press in a sense, but the overall tone of the reaction is very negative. Most people find it to be a negative sort of. They've given it a negative view on
Yeah.
it already. With another major contingent sort of calling out the hypocritical nature of people who say, "Why is this game any worse than all the other games that we've been playing this year?"
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that I don't know. For me, I just hope this game doesn't find an audience.
Yeah.
The people were comparing this game to the game Postal from 20 years ago, where you played a man who just went around killing people. There was also a game made where you were a Ku Klux Klan member a long time ago, and all you did was kill black people. And the voice acting for all of the black characters were just monkey sounds.
Oh wow.
It's like these types of games don't deserve an audience.
Yeah, they have no place in a society.
There's no place in the society, and you can try and file it under freedom of speech and all that, but there's a hate crime nature to it.
Yeah.
And in this, you're inciting violence just for the sake of for just doing violence. I just don't think there's a place for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
think
agree.
it's very hard for the target demographic of video game players who play this type of game to understand that nuance. And I don't think that you should sort of put this type of subject matter into minds that are still being molded. And you could argue that our minds are constantly being molded every time we engage in new subject matter.
Right.
They're just, why put something like this into their mindset?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this becomes a censorship argument, but I don't know. I just think that it's too dangerous. And see, like all this stuff starts to become really interesting, right? Because who am I to say? Who am I to say like what's appropriate for somebody else?
Right. It's interesting because yeah, you and I both agree that we're not playing this game, right? We are saying that it's not appropriate for us.
Right.
And it's not to say that either of us think that this game's going to change who we are, but I don't think that some people. I think some people are probably unstable enough that this game could, have a profound effect on them. Or going back to kind of what we had with in our conversation about how people view others online. I just think that a lot of people don't seem to empathize with others when it comes to online interactions, and this game could kind of further that problem that I think does exist.
Sure. I just we'll see. We'll have to. I think this is something that we should keep tabs on.
Yeah, I am interested in this game. I wonder if they're gonna, if they receive enough backlash about this game, if they'll try to tone it down. They'll try to make some type of story that, tries to make sense of things, if there already is a story that tries to make sense of things. But like I said, from what we saw in the trailer, in fact, we can put a link to the trailer in the description of the YouTube link of this
Yeah, let's
podcast.
do that.
But yeah, giving it more attention, I know, but I think it's interesting to check out. But yeah, like I said, I really don't think there was any motivation other than, in the fact, that's what he says. He's just fed up with the world, and he is going to take out as many people as he can before he gets taken out himself.
Yeah.
It's very graphic, and very unsettling for me, at least.
Very graphic, very unsettling. Viewer discretion advised for anyone who checks it out from this location.
Yeah.
If you're easily sort of unsettled, please do not watch it. Just take our word for it.
Right.
Yeah, but I think sort of you have to make these types of decisions for yourself and for the people that you're responsible for.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Wraps it up for this week.
Yeah, I think we've given hatred an hour of our focus today.
Partially
So-
hatred. Yeah.
So in that aspect, they've succeeded.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we have one more weekend, right?
Yep.
Before we head out.
Yeah, we will probably, in all likelihood, miss that episode that week. That what weekend is that? The second, November 2nd and 3rd. My birthday, actually. We'll take that weekend off, but we should return on the 9th. So we'll be here the 26th next week, or I should say 27th. That's we do the recording for the 26th. We'll put it out on the 27th. We won't have a recording on the 3rd, but we should be back for the 10th.
Yeah. It'll be exciting to celebrate your birthday out there.
Yeah. Out in the dunes, right?
Yeah. That should be an amazing sight to see.
Yeah, my lab members. So they told me I should take pictures and then email the pictures to them and just tell them how jealous they should be.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
And even in the darkest corners of the world, it's just going to be Wi-Fi nowadays. So.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, this is Sandy.
And Reza.
And thanks again for listening. We'll see you next week.